What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Pitts Sports Zone, Bowie TV, coming to you live. Listen, it's going down, all things HBCUs. And who else better to start it off with them Bowie State Bulldogs? We coming to you, Bowie State Bulldogs, total access. We got the Morgan State Bears. Listen, all HBCUs information, all HBCU news, sporting events, updates. You get it live here with Pitt Sports Zone, Bowie TV, Comcast Channel 77, Verizon Channel 11 is going down. Don't you miss a beat. Listen, it's only the beginning because it's early still. And it's we're gonna be here all day. All day. What's going on, everybody? You know what it is. I'm your host, Pitt Sports Zone, Bowie TV, coming to you live yet again. You know what it is. It's the Pitts and Powell show. And before we start, definitely got to get you to hydrate yourself with some good old smart water. Like Bobby said, H2O. My said, foosballs for the devil. What's going on, Coach?
Nothing much, Terrence, man. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, got to get some water in you, man. Got to have a good old H2O.
Man, Coach, how you been, man? Since the last time that we got together, we got together right before the HBCU Invitational took off, and definitely competed, had some rough moments, but like to go ahead and delve into it and share your thoughts in regards from the HBCU Invitational, and then we'll get into the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think thanks, man. I appreciate it. So I think, and you can attest to this. I think going to the HBCU Invitational was a really, really great experience for the players and for everybody involved. I think it was really high energy, high intensity softball, which I thought was really good. And I thought we competed well. I think, after we got our legs up under us, being the first time outside, being the first time us actually playing, on a field and that kind of stuff. I think, the FAMU game got away from us a little bit. We competed early, but at the end, it kind of got away from us a little bit. But I think every game after that, I think we really performed. We got better every game after that. Every inning, we got a little bit better. So I think the experience was really well. But I also believe that us playing, it really helped us propel kind of where we are, where we headed. So I think it was all around. It was all around a good trip, good experience.
And it's never an excuse. However, I think we'd be remiss to really highlight that one point, or I do, because you guys had not had an outside practice until that Thursday before we arrived, right? And your first time playing, practicing together, and then just going into competition, and even coming back home, it has still been, the weather has been very disturbing to the schedule, to the practicing outside, to et cetera. Given all of that, how have you seen your team progress, even with the limited amount of time to really build that continuity that is built during practices?
Man, I think that, we got to take every little advantage of the opportunities that we do have, and we make no excuses. Yeah, we got to practice in the gym, but that gives us an opportunity to work on the small things. You know what I mean? And so we can't make any excuses, because the thing is that the teams that we're playing, they don't care. They don't care whether we've been outside. They don't care whether we practice, in a cubby hole. That's not their concern. You know what I mean? Their concern is to try to beat the brakes off us. You know what I mean? So we have to, prepare, whatever situation we find ourselves in, we gotta get better. You know what I mean? And so that's what we've been trying to do, man. We didn't, we know there's an excuse out there we can use, but we choose not to use it.
No, absolutely. And when you talk about every game competing, it wasn't like, there were blowouts, albeit, I think one game, but that was, due to, one, that was the first game. There
Mm,
was some just routine plays that the team normally makes.
yeah,
And again, a catalyst of not being able to really be in the element. Um, while in the gym, it's taking pop balls, pop ups, that's going, 20, 30 feet in the air and coming down is different, in
yeah,
the gym than it is being outside in elements. But again, every single game, the team has competed.
yeah,
They even in the midst of when the game isn't going their way, they're still high spirit.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a staple of kind of who we are and how we want to be. You know what I mean? I want you to look up in the scoreboard and not
Yeah,
sometimes not know who's in the lead and who's behind just by what's going on, on the field and in our dugout. You know what I mean? We want to always feel like we're in the game or we're competing, and we just keep our heads down, keep fighting, and we'll look up in the end. We'll see where we are, but we'll count them up. But I think that's just a signature that we want to have. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think we're getting there. We're getting in.
And let's even go. Let's go. I think within the last 9 games, you guys were 3-6. Last week, you guys won three on the road. Talk about the development that you just seen in regards to it because you shifted your infield around a lot, and the outfield kind of really has been consistent
Hmm.
with adding, I believe, India.
Hmm.
Uh, is India to right field, I believe.
Yeah, and India's in the rotation. Yeah, and
Right,
India's in
India,
the rotation.
Ireland, right,
And
India,
Mark,
Ireland, Margot,
yep,
Karina.
yep,
You know,
Presley. Yeah,
it's. I mean, you have depth.
yeah.
When it comes to the outfield, what are some things that you would like to see differently or more of from your outfielders?
And I think my outfielders are really doing a really great job. They're communicating. They're maximum effort players. And so we just got to keep continue improving. You know what I mean? You in every sense of the word, as a team, as a unit. They kind of know what they individually need to work on. And so they make that their task. They're one of the that their accountability. They make strong accountability when they don't make the play or make the
Mhm.
exact play that they think they should have, or the right throw. It doesn't land exactly where they wanted to land. They make self accountability. They are definitely a group that makes themselves accountable for the things that they're responsible for. So that's
Absolutely,
I'm not saying anything they need to prove on. They already, they're making improvements every
every
day.
single day.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about, is that the team, like as you just said, and we talked about it, even when we were in Atlanta, right? In
Hmm.
Atlanta, it was more of knocking the rust off. Again,
Hmm.
it's not an excuse because at the end of the day, like you said, the opponents don't care about the advantages or disadvantages. Everybody has them, and everybody has to deal with them in their own standard of ways. But when you look at from Atlanta and you can see, them knocking their dust off, getting their gears in place, when you talk about, routine plays that they always make, and then coming from Atlanta and then lining up, here at the Washington National Youth Academy field and watching how the plays from Atlanta aren't they're not making those mistakes aren't there, and it's
Hmm.
more so now lining up the defense with the offense.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, man. So I think we like I said it earlier, probably said it earlier in our conversation, that we don't lose, we learn. And so
Mhm.
we've taken all of that information and kind of learn from it and then start to improve on it. You know what I mean? And so I think last weekend was a clear and evident kind of clear and evident way that you can see how we were improving. So those games that we were losing close, now we trying to turn the tide on them, and with some decent teams, that we're coming out on top on some of those games where
Yeah,
before we were ending up, one run loss. Now we're at the one run win, and I think all of those games prior to helped us get to the outcome that we were looking for this weekend. I mean, the past weekend.
right. When we look at, I think the CIAA roundup is coming up around the corner, not too far from us. And when you look at your pitching, your bullpen, loving, Sid, Draco, Licia, and your freshman Lee, talk about the things that you are seeing from those young ladies.
I mean, they're growing as a unit. They're growing. They are really starting to blossom in their own way. And what I talk about is that everybody has a responsibility, and they go and they take they take their responsibility seriously, and they go out and they work hard, and then they go out and take command of the circle. They are, in essence, when the game is going on, everybody is kind of um, cheering them on, like, hey, because they are actually on the leaders, because they touch the ball every play. The catcher only touches it one more time than they do, but other than that, they touch the ball every single play. So they have a lot to do with how we show up. You know what I mean? And I think they've taken on the challenge. All four of
Yeah.
them really have taken on the challenge, and they show up well. I'm excited, you know, for them to continue, to see how we end up, with the ball in their hands.
And coach, you have an issue. I think a lot of coaches would love to have. You have a lot of power, but unfortunately, all the power can't be on the field at the same time. When
Mm,
you talk about the strength of your bats,
mm.
how do you manage and figure out? I know probably based off who you're playing, but when you have that much power on your bench, how do you balance it out?
I we just had this conversation the other day, and I was like, in every game, people's opportunity is going to look different. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Every opportunity is not going to look the same as it did last game, or as it did last week. But you have to be prepared for your opportunity when it comes. Because this week we may be asking you to do, to be a power hitter. Next week we may be asked to put you in the game when it's time for, it looks like a power hitter, but we want you to bunt the ball. You know what I mean? To move the runner around. You know what I mean? So it always, so we try to make sure that everybody plays offense. We everybody has a role on offense. So we kind of make sure that they're prepared for whatever role they're going to play in that game. So that's really, and we look to call on all of those people that we believe in, and that's all 25 players, 24
Absolutely.
players that we look to call on them at and offensively and defensively, but we're talking offensively at the moment that the opportunity arrives, we call on them and we expect execution.
Yeah.
So
And coach said, and his talent isms. So we're gonna call them the power isms. And coach said, we don't lose, we learn.
mm.
And a couple weeks back, one of my favorite ones, we respect everybody, but we ain't scared of nobody.
Oh, that's
You
that's
know.
that's that's still true. That's that man. That that is still true, man. We've been playing
Yeah.
some really good teams, man, and we're playing from the Mountain East to the PSAC, and we again we respect everybody, but we just not scared of anybody.
Yeah, and I'm glad and I was going to actually pivot to that. When you talk about the schedule, and I kind of made that, I kind of wrote that up in the post that I did earlier today, and that was, you guys have not been playing, chicken pot teams. You guys have been playing some really good teams and, some upper echelon teams. So when you look at that and you look at the opponents and you look at how your team has battled, each and every game, as I said, the margin of defeat isn't far, and it's really taking a toll and tuning in what this team's makeup look like. How has that been for you on the early onset of the season? Just watching and seeing, okay, you know, maybe we need to adjust here a little bit. I need to spend a little bit more time here. How has that been for you, just from an onlooker?
Oh man, it's honestly it's been a kind of a self-aware kind of thing, kind of looking at inward to myself to figure out like what is it that, I need to do to help us get to a better place. You know what I mean? Even though our schedule was, there's no really like cupcakes on our schedule. So just looking at that, and sometimes questioning, why did I do it that way? But then I go back to my team and was like, because I believe in my players, and I strongly believe in their ability and their will and their fight and all of those things. I truly believe. So that's why I made the schedule the way it is. You know what I mean? And so I really had to, circle the wagons with our coaching staff, kind of looking into kind of what how we have to contribute to get to get through this tough schedule. I mean, I've talked to a couple of D1 coaches and they looked at our schedule and was like, wow, you do have a really tough schedule. So um, we don't rest on that. We just playing a tough schedule and it is what it is. We have to rise to the occasion, which I think,
Yeah,
last week is a good indication of where we could be headed. You know what I mean? And so I think,
yeah,
and we put a little bit more time and intention on, where we come from, and then kind of where we want to go with the effort and the focus. And like I said, the accountability part has really been huge for us. That's kind of one of the kind of stick words that we kind of stuck on, is being accountable, to yourself and to your teammates and to the larger university, to your family. You know what I mean? So we kind of
yeah.
taking that on, just to be accountable. You know, so.
And when you talk about, you sharing the conversations you have with another coach, and one of the things that I look at it too is, the adversity, right? Because when you're playing against opponents as such as the opponents that you're playing against, the one thing that I have seen time and time again, year in year out, is that there's a no blink mentality, regardless of who the team is lined up against. There is an expectation that we should win. As never a coward to the opponent, regardless of the division or the conference that they're in. And we always say adversity builds character. And I think for your team, like I said before, every year you've had a different characteristic of your team because every year you've had a different roster.
Mhm.
And then when you're looking at this year, you have so much talent on your team, even from I'm talking from your freshmen all the way to your seniors and Karina and Ryan. But you have plethora of talent that I feel that the season for me, in my opinion, is still early, especially because you haven't played any CIAA games yet.
Mhm.
Um, but with the CIAA roundup coming around the corner, I think it'll definitely be a testament to the opponents that you guys have already played. Then
Mhm.
going into the CIAA, and I'm not saying that as a knock to all of the CIAA teams. I'm just saying it from a perspective of when you look at the competition and what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, we really, speaking of those teams that we played, our goal was to, um, really, start at playing at a high level and continuously play at that level for multiple games, like game after game after game after game. We wanted to be challenged to play at the highest level that we possibly could play at multiple times, like not just over a weekend, and then play down, and then we wanted to, once we started playing at that level, which I don't know if we could have gotten started off playing any higher level than we started
Yeah.
off with FAM A&T.
You.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with FAM A&T, and I don't think we could have started off much higher than that, at a
Yeah.
D2 university. You couldn't. And so the goal is to continue to play at that level until we get to the conference. You know what I mean? And then continue to see where we are. You know what I mean? Because that's what's important, and that's really, what the goal was when we made the schedule, is to see how long we can play at that level and compete playing at a high level. A multiple games, and I think we've played to date where we played 16 games.
16.
And yeah, and I don't think any we haven't had any drop off on the competition. The competition level has been really really high, and so we're getting what we planned on. You know what I mean? And so we just gonna keep following and forging through, and kind of see, if that was the right plan, to try to get to where we were trying to go. So, we still on the experimental stages. We think we okay, but we still got some work to do.
I believe you're okay, and I want to pivot back just a little bit because still the weather is still a factor,
Mm.
and being able to practice the way you would like to. Our weather has, 1 minute we got tornado watch, nothing comes. We got rain. We got 85-degree weather. Then we got snow. Then we got rain. So how have you been able to keep your team mentally locked in and not allowing the setbacks of weather to seep in? Because I know there was a cancel of a doubleheader last week. I know supposed to be a game, home game this Wednesday. So how do you keep the team locked in when these, of course, things out of their control affects their ability to get out on the field and continue to build the momentum, continue to build the continuity that they're working on.
Um, no excuses. We don't make any excuses. Wherever we have the place to get better, we just go to work. No excuses. You know what I mean? That it doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter whether we can go outside or not, because we can get better wherever we are. We get outside, we're gonna get better outside. We inside, we gotta get better inside. We can't hit front toss. There's not our ability to front toss. All right, well, we got to get better at the tees. You know what I mean? We don't have, we not don't get a chance to go out on the turf. All right, we got to get better in the gym. You know what I mean? So just being a non, just no excuses. Just let's just go to work with what we got. You know what I mean? And we'll figure it out. But if we can get outside anytime soon, then great. We're gonna go outside. But if we can't, we gonna get better right where we are. You know.
Yeah. Coach, you're losing a very important piece. She may not be on the field. She may not be batting. She may
Oh
not be in the
man.
field, ground taking fly balls and
Yep.
grounders.
Yep. Yep.
But Lee, for me, from my vantage point, if you allow, for me to tell you what Lee means to the softball team from my
Mhm.
viewpoint, from my
Mhm.
perspective,
Mhm.
um, Lee is motivation. Lee is tough love. Lee is regardless of who you are, I'm going to push those buttons to get what I need out of you. And I'm gonna love you after, and I'm gonna love you later after you have
Mhm.
your after we have our
Mhm.
blow up.
Mhm.
Um, but when you talk about it, the energy, the pulse, the beat, the chance, Lee is that person.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, man. I don't have words. Literally, I don't have words to actually to put in words how important she is
yeah,
to our program, to our culture, to how things are done, to how things are supposed to be done, how they should be done. She's the shining example of someone of the culture of what we and what we have built, and then how it's sustained.
Yeah.
She is that. She is that. You know what I mean? And she, like you mentioned, she's definitely, being promoted to a coach. And she was one of those people that just like, coach me now, love me later. You know what I mean? Just like this what has to be done. This is the standard. And she allowed no one to fall below that standard. And so I don't, I don't talk about missing her because she'll be back, you know, um, but she's she's a special person, man. I mean, she's really special. I love to give her flowers because it's, she's like one of those players, or even in her role, you can't replace. So
Yeah.
we don't even try to replace her. Somebody just gotta pick it up, and it takes
Exactly.
all of us. It takes like 4 or 5 people to pick up the all the stuff that one person was doing. You know what I mean? And so
Absolutely.
we felt it this weekend. We still feeling it. You know what I mean? But we love Lee, and we can't wait till she gonna go do her service to the country, and then get back to us. So yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely wanted to end that with Lee, man. Wanted to give Lee her flowers because
Oh yeah.
Lee has
Yeah.
made me feel, she's given me nothing but love, and appreciation. And, I just appreciate her tremendously for all that she has done for me as well.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's tough. I seen no messages going by, and I was like, dang, I'm getting teary eyed.
Oh yeah,
But,
yeah. They love Lee. They
yeah,
absolutely love. They had a little crying. She met us at the bus last night when we got back, and they had their little tear session. I can't tell all their business, but they
right,
were
right, right,
they
right.
were all they were all moved. That she met us at the bus, and they were all moved. Really, just the love and outpouring that she gives to them, and then they give back to her. So um
Absolutely.
yeah, no, she get her flowers. There's no there's so many people that I've run across in the softball world that want to know, like, where can we get a person like Lee? And I'm like,
Mm,
there's only one of them. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
everybody recognizes it. Even the camera guy, the guy that does all the video work, does all the TV work for the CIAA, really
Mm,
tried to get Lee to come work for him. That's how,
mm.
I mean, yeah, he tried to get her to come work for him. So she's known all around the conference, just about her
Absolutely.
about her work. You know what I mean? She's
Yeah,
known. That's how you want to be known for. You want to be known for your work. Her work
absolutely.
supersedes her commitment. So hats off to Lee.
Yeah, Lee.
Love you, coach.
Love you, love you for sure. Well, Coach, definitely want to end it on that note.
Yep.
Couldn't have been a better note to end it on, man.
Oh yeah.
And you already know what it is. Every other Monday is going down. Pitts and Powell, P Square. Y'all know what it
Yep.
is. Pitt
Yep.
Sports Zone, Bowie TV.
Let's go, Bowie.
Y'all get
Let's go,
at
Bowie.
us. Bowie State
Yeah.
Bulldogs. Just
Yep.
heating up. Enjoy the rest of y'all Monday.
All right. Gone.